Next stop, Harcourt. Ab hier fahren Next stop, St. Stephen's Green. Right for Grafton Street Shopping District. Hier Freud Grafton. Tram destination, Groombridge. Next stop, Westmoreland. Ceann scríbe an tram Droichead Grúm an chéad stad inne. Westmoreland.
Peacemaker's hilarious. I'm kind of John Cena. He's just very what would you call it? Irreverent.
Definitely, that was excited about what I was going to say.
Next stop, O'Connell GPO. southbound trams from Abbey Street. O'Connell, GPO. Afric de Ramana Nadine Derriga Tram destination, Broom Bridge. Next stop, O'Connell Upper. Change for southbound trams via Parnell. Countleven tram, Trehead Broom. En Hjadstavere, O'Connell Orthra. Afric de Framna, Yas via Parnell. O'Connell Upper, O'Connell Orthra. Next stop, Dominic. On Hjadstavere, Dominic. 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 Alhamar Laha. Obscur.
Seems to be a wide angle lens of it. They're gonna. That's tough. It is, yeah, tough lens to wide angle. Fantastic comedy. Fantastic comedy. Perfect pun. Very random. I love your easy emoji. That's.
Broadstone. University. Alhamar Laha. Obscur.
I like this one.
Next stop, Great Gore. Lychiad Stafele, Granche Hormone.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, I thought it was very slithery. She says it's yes or no, and then it's
Yeah, like you for me, I don't. Yeah, like this.
My cat.
and then the as we said, like with some onion, ham fried, and some tofu.
Se llamaba Nala. I cried for
Thank you.
Sí, no.
Next stop,
Yeah,
Kia Stana, Harno.
colegio. Sí, vengo de
The second time, I was like, that's the same distance, but yeah, so like that derecha.
mi.
I sent you the money.
Sí, que se ya, like. Mira qué bonito. Panamá. Panamá. Dejamos estamos en este. Muy bonito.
I mean, yeah, I'd like to. I usually wouldn't like right now. I just hope we won't have to wait long.
Harno.
If we wait long, I would suggest we walk because it's actually not that long of a walk.
Mi primera
قعدت اروح مع قطع الطريق
خلاص خلصتها جنبك كله مش في حته هناك الشرطه هنا ودي هاخدها على
Next stop, Barbara. Change from Red Line tracks from Money Street. Hier ist Heute achterin de Frankfurt. De Money Street.
Just like a hotel. I don't know, it's 'cause I'm pretty sure it's like a hotel, but like the branding's like it's like a show and like people or whatever.
Molto long.
Like, it was good for like
Those pieces of
Oh,
paper.
yeah.